Hello. Welcome back to my stream. Continuing with the Zelda studies, and it's a little late, and I don't know if I'm super inspired to do anything major right now, so I might just do a few studies. Nothing wrong with that. This is like, I don't know if these are like canon Ganon, but these are real enough that I can tell that would be useful to do some drawings of. So let's try it out. I'll probably load them into the screen. Via the old OBS. Let's see here. Did that work? There we are. So I'll put this here. You can see what I'm looking at, even though it's on my reference monitor and not down here. Okay. And what can happen when we do a study is ideas can percolate. I suppose if you have to force yourself to have an idea, you can. Often enough, in my experience, if you just start drawing a bad idea quickly enough, you'll think of something better while you're drawing it, and you'll quickly lose interest in the bad drawing and switch to doing the right one, as you should. Kind of having a similar a familiar gripe as I'm drawing this first one. You would see it right here. This first one here on the left. I'll make it larger just for a second so we can see, but his pose is suboptimal, is the diplomatic way I might put it. It's very symmetrical, without much reason to be so. The camera feels neither high nor low. He doesn't look particularly imposing. He's not, from what I can tell, looking directly at us. There's some issues here with this leg coming forward, and then this arm is also coming forward. I think ideally you would have that. If this leg was coming forward, you'd want this one coming forward in space. And then you'd want to actually make it clear that that was happening by changing up some of the posing. And since I've got so much to say about it. Maybe I should just do all that. Whereas I was going to try and give it a faithful attempt at a copy. I feel like I can do better. So let's I'm gonna switch my brush to something I'm not going to get precious with. Let's start over. Ganon is a fearsome figure, so let's lower the vantage point a little bit so he looms a little bit larger. So instead of more or less being at the same height as Ganon, maybe it feels like we're coming up to his knees. Ganon has a pig-like head. Let's make it clear that he's got big, broad shoulders. And he can definitely be in a kind of symmetrical look, but if he looks like everything is the same from left to right, it won't be enough chaos or interest to match his character, I feel. So where I can, even if, obviously these eyes should not be radically different from each other, but, they can vary the expression somewhat. But let's not get bogged down in detail too much right now. Big shoulders. He'll have a snout, no doubt here. That will be gross. Okay. Okay. I want the arm holding the weapon to be clearly retreating in space. And that means his other arm is going to come forward somewhat, which means something like that. This one is retreating, which means this leg is going to come forward. Even if we're not trying to give the impression that he's walking towards us, he could still be standing like this, but it just looks better. It's more deliberate looking in terms of making artistic choices. Makes him more deliberate in his character portrayal. I'm wondering if there's much in his form, should he be sort of portrayed as sort of fat, like is that right? Or just, is that a mistake? Is it more like he's just powerful, like big, like Bowser, Yes, he's got 2 ears, but they don't have to do the exact same thing. Do these tusks always have to come up? I don't know if I love that. What if they just came out? Decisions. Looks like he's pretty consistently wearing sort of hat or armored skull plate piece. Make it look like he's got big hulking muscle beyond that. Maybe some kind of flow to his cape. Too much. Doing any kind of real study, it feels like at this point. Let's really get him leaning in here. This is like a new character design. Not quite resembling enough the source materials, in my opinion. Really commit with these. Coming forward or retreating into space. Going back even further. What would he be doing with this? making mistakes somewhere. So let's flop it, see if anything leaps out. Smiling somehow, some sort of evil smile. Maybe he's clutching. Yeah. You know what also is I've made an error in not having height difference. Yeah, this feels better. For now, we can just sort of some sort of clenched, gauntleted fist of rage might suit us just fine. Improvise some muscle here. Okay. Making it very clear that this shoulder is coming forward and this one is going back into space. We could even get, yeah, the form of the cloak to follow. Something I remember about Ganon is his power to turn invisible. Maybe we could do a cool effect where it looked like he was invisible, where the cloak was coming over his body. Some sort of neat light trick of the light. Definitely making sure that does it feel right? character design and pose at the same time. Maybe more out. Maybe. I don't know if I love this arm sort of crunching up the silhouette. But let's keep it there for now. Flop it again. Probably just start over. And like really try to focus, like what is the line of action, like what is he doing, kind of a thing, instead of just meandering into the thing. It's actually not that bad. It's just let's see if try to do it a little more freshly. Okay. A little bit more. Well, a lot more intentional. Of course, it makes a big difference to have a little bit more of a roadmap. Just for a second, I was wondering if I could make his, obviously he's got this trident, but it's also sort of his wizard staff. Yeah, this looks looking better for sure. At least in my opinion. I wonder if that invisibility cloak idea could still bear fruit. I do think the cloak needs to have some presence on this side of the composition, at least. Ears were sort of blowing too. It's feeling more powerful to me to do it again, but with more intention, a little bit more of a, you get a do-over. And didn't I say at the beginning that when you don't necessarily have an idea, but you set about to dutifully attempt to study, that often a better idea will present. And I think that held true here. And now, as I'm doing this, I'm recalling the, this is a very kind of close-up, intense drawing of Ganon. Should we make it look like he was on top of the Golden Palace, the Pyramid of Power? What was it called? Link to the Past. I always thought that thing was so fucking crazy scary. You'd have to see all the things in the background. You could have fucking Death Mountain exploding. Clouds. Dark world. You could imply that he's at the top of a very large building by just having all these small little details down here. seems to, in one of these drawing depictions, have they're feeling very basic, but you know, should he have these kinds of details with, like, you know, do we love the, or are they cheesy? Maybe they're, is that cringe? But I think I'm down with, like, big clawed feet. Mostly just super muscular body. Very impressive form. Clear that this leg is going back. There's like pieces of blasted matter just floating away. Just a sense of wind. Like hot, dusty wind. Wonder if it should be made smaller in the composition. See a little bit more of the pyramid, just for some context. More period, or more pyramid and a smaller Ganon. Probably shouldn't see the top of the pyramid at all. Let's try that. to pay homage to the classic game design. Like, this is looking cool to me. Feels powerful, feels authentic to the intention. Drawing. Fucking super powerful Ganon ruling over the Dark World. It's like, how are you gonna fucking defeat this guy on his own turf? You're gonna need all the help you can get. It's kind of cool. Make it look like there was a little bit more atmosphere. And then let's definitely get in now. Instead of the first thing we do, let's have it be the last thing that we do, which is get some facial details on Ganon. And then maybe I'll throw a little lighting on it. I'm not going to try and go late. Been missing too much sleep lately. It's making me testy. And tonight, I'm drinking pure water, which is sorely needed in my diet. Less fun, and you know, it's not a party tonight, but I also have to, I'm noticing that it's too complicated right now to explain. The way I have all my monitors and things set up is very sort of hodgepodge. So the and I'm on, this is a standing desk actually, that I'm sitting in a tall stool on a standing desk, and as a result it's not particularly stable. So as I draw and use my body, you know, to control, I transfer a lot of energy into the monitor, and it causes everything to wobble. So if it looks like things are wobbling, it's because they're very wobbly. And what I do is I sort of use I use kneaded eraser to sort of stick things in place, but also do a little shock absorbing. And it works very well. But sometimes I'll be doing actual drawings with pencil, and I'll need a eraser, so I keep stealing from my monitor setup where I know I have some, and then as a result, now I simply have nothing holding, no glue holding my setup together, and so now it's just completely sort of back as if I had done nothing at all to improve this situation, which is very not great. It's a little distracting for me. Okay, let's get some facial details here on Ganon. We can bring back our original idea and just remind ourselves. But even here we can see the line of his head so much more aggressive. more of like an intense length of snout. Something really curled up in contempt. I don't know if I love the hat. Like, what if he just had a big old muscular fat sort of head? Just full of bone-crunching jaw strength. That looks fairly seriously intense. I don't know if I'm doing too good of a job keeping things consistent in my exploration. Let's circle back a little bit. Where do the eyes feel most natural? Most naturally unnatural. And you know what? I don't want him to look like an elephant either. You know? It's not too bad like that. struggling due to my sobriety. And it's like, maybe it's too much of a departure. Well, yeah, a lot of the decisions, I'm not sure if I like them. Let's go back. Nothing wrong with saying, you know what? They might have had something with the way they did it the first time, and what if it was just a kind of classic Ganon? I definitely don't want it to look cartoony. Uncharacteristically struggling. To find what I want here. Keeping it a little bit simpler, maybe. Just like a dark scowling. Is the mouth open? Jaws like that. Yeah, I still think I like the tusks pointing down. That's something different. And if I can make the head a little smaller. That might help. These nostrils go up? No. Yeah. Different shapes. That's pretty good, just as it was. Can I get away with pupils? I think he rarely has those. Feeling better about this depiction. He looks demonic, which isn't perfect, but I think I can make that it's kind of in the spirit of the thing. Somewhat corrupted. What do we do with this thing on his head? Let's keep the, just go, make final decision, glowing eyes. If I can, I want to make it look like some sort of snarl happening. And I'm not sure about how the anatomy of a tusk really works. So I'm kind of just fudging all that. I don't want to just add and add stuff to it, so. Yeah. Let's simplify it at least a little bit there. Let's take away this thing. Okay. Definitely need to reclaim a little bit of the head is pointing down. Sort of intentionality. And it's not necessary for me to add tons and tons of detail here. But I am curious to see if there's any sort of thing I might want to do with the lighting. Let's add a little bit more detail to the body. Too much guessing. Can start with what we know. Clavicles sort of coming up in a U shape here, then sort of heart-shaped deltoid muscles. Inserting themselves. Looked better before I did all that. I think adding detail here too much made it feel like it was coming forth more than it needed to. Pose is really challenging my sense of anatomy. Not just snapping it all into place like I normally would. But I try not to use references if I don't have to. It's I feel like it slows me down. Maybe it doesn't, but I feel like it does sometimes. that one was too much. We can safely get rid of that one. Still like some things about that. Maybe we do find a way to make this some sort of wizardry skull cap. It's very much like a wizard thing to have some sort of thing like that, like in that Excalibur movie. The Merlin character definitely wore something like that. Don't want it to look super curvy. Kind of like this eye. Just having trouble getting it on both sides. This will probably definitely be something I'll have to allow myself to not overwork it today. It doesn't need to be completely solved in one go. Feels better anyway. I'm meandering about in my decision making, and it's not good because I'm making small decisions without solving the big ones first. It's like there's not much point to doing that. But it was important to sort of like see if I could really make some progress on what Ganon could look like for this project, you know? you know, and I want him to look like Ganon, but I also want him to be different enough to be, you know, it's not like I can't make it ownable to me. That won't be the case with this project, but it could look unique to my vision. But what is my vision, you know? I'm trying to figure that out. This feels like it's back on track after a lot of unsureness. But now I know what to do. About the lighting. Now, if anything, the legs need to be bigger. You know, and I'm like shading it out of a sense of nervousness just to clarify some of the forms, but what is my intention with the lighting, you know, and is what I'm doing right now going to have to be reversed once I start really making decisions about the lighting. Could he have his hand open? Could he be clutching something? Could it be the Triforce? I'm okay with just the Fist of Doom for now. Although I think I may change my mind later on. Then with a lot of this other stuff, it's like, you know, is it muscle or is it like a costume? Like a whatever. And I do still like the idea of the invisibility cloak having some sort of interest. It's kind of more, a little bit cooler looking. Mind. To discipline myself to not get too flowy with this cape, so as to soften him. I'm not particularly well versed in doing different types of drapery that has structure, like as if it was, I don't know, the opposite of silk. Like, you know, I'd love it to look more aggressive. Don't necessarily have that right there in my repertoire just yet. Here we can, I think, safely assume that some sort of loincloth is appropriate. But doesn't need a ton of attention. Just being way too precious with this drawing to be effective with sketching it in any kind of timely way. Way too caught up in its importance. Would have been better off, I think, to have forced myself to be more attentive about those studies. But I felt like I had an idea, and then it was all about chasing it down. But getting some anxiety here with some of these things where I'm like, how well do I know my knee anatomy? I'm not sure if I'm doing that great of a job right there. Really trying to do it some justice, but feels almost like this really needs a like a point comes out there. Or does it? Some of this, but not all of it. Yeah, getting there. Way over time now in this thing, and there's so many little details that I could pay attention to. Might have to do this little cheat where I just that over. Could we get away with pointy claws on our knees and elbows? Maybe. It's okay to draw them in. Let's see what we think later. By adding more stairs, or adding more geometry to the stairs, the scale Ganon increases. What can I do to really cheat the hell out of this thing in the next 10 minutes with some lighting? I mean, it feels like the most obvious thing generally is to light it from below to make it look evil or magical. Can we just try and do something like that really quickly? See if it gets us in the direction we want. Yeah, I feel like that's not, unfortunately, gonna help us in this case. Let's try maybe just thinking about it as it's not hell. It's not lakes of fire below that we're contending with. vaguest forms. Not all the forcing myself. Do not shade individual muscles. Shade the limbs. Think about what's in shade. This is feeling good. A sense of that shadow spilling over here, and then or actually it might be more like that. Because he's sort of blocking a lot of that light as we get closer to him. But then on the other hand, when we get away from him, I think we can justify having the gradient go the other way. See what that looks like a little bit. Ooh. Too perfectly structured or anything like that. Just indicating some idea there. Fun song. Could be a lot of atmosphere. Help us. What Death Mountain looks like, but feels like that could be a good stand-in. Like there are whole sections of recognizable map that could be explored in the distance, in the fog. sure that the ominous ever-present darkness of the dark world. As its presence. The initial notion I was having about the cape having an invisibility effect is I don't think that's gonna support the composition, and is too much maybe to explain. So it's shaded in. Try to do so in a way where it has structure. We get a sense of it. Not sure if I'm doing a good job of that. Could it be that we have rim light? Somehow helping us out with some of this stuff. Maybe. Could be cool. I like seeing it suggested here. Remember it, maybe explore it more next time. Could we probably too much, but force ourselves to honor a very real game element, which was the lightning. Dare it strike twice. Yeah, it's okay with me if it looks like it's in the distance. Lightning could be the source of the rim light where we need it. Provide a really cool reflective glint. Right there. Now I'm liking very much the lightning idea. Fear, given as dark as I've gone elsewhere in the drawing, that if I don't darken up his mouth and maybe his snout a bit more. But the values are just not going to look okay. So, doing some of that. I really gotta sleep on this because I'm making way too many decisions too soon. It's like now I'm excited. It's kind of cool. Does it need rain? Darken everything more. It's kind of badass. More cheap tricks. Do that on like everything. It's kind of cool though. Well, I don't hate it. Okay, one thing I don't love is that I've obscured Death Mountain completely with the lightning bolt. So let's do, before we're completely forgetting it, make something look like it's ominously rising. In the background. Make it look like it's exploding with lava. Feeling very much like that's slowing down the composition now. Like the thought of slow moving magma doesn't have the energy. So it's like, can this be intensified? Made to look like the eruption is ongoing. Multiple rivulets. Maybe it just needs another lightning bolt. This one is a little bit weak sauce. I used the wrong color of the didn't come out pure white like it should have. Is that too much? I feel like that helps it. This could use something else. Look like there's something over here. Some sort of visual interest. That's basically enough, I know. Need that going all the way to Ganon now. Now let's get some bits of visual interest. And this stuff could be anything. It could be like bits of leaves or dust or just ash from a distant fire. Embers, burning embers. You can see that adds kind of like kinetic energy. Where is it? Here it is. Get away with a little bit of atmosphere in the foreground. Button it all again. and burn it just a little bit more. Hey, man. This was the struggle. This was the struggle one. You missed a lot of fear, uncertainty, doubt, and but I think it redeemed itself in the end. Yeah, it's not too bad. Here, let me. So this was, I all I wanted to do was just do a study. And I started drawing this guy, and I'm like, it's a waste of time because the pose sucks, and I'm like, and then it just sort of, the challenge was issued forth to see if I could improve it, and then I just got deep into a tangent, forcing myself to correct things and then correct things and then correct things until I ultimately came on something that does look pretty cool in the end. But yeah, you have to pull out all the things. But I knew I'd have to draw Ganon eventually, so I hope the context is clear. We've got the you know, was it the Pyramid of Power, the Golden Pyramid? Very, you know, this is the Dark World, Ganon, and Golden Tower, exactly. Golden Tower, and Ganon ruling over the masses of the trying to attempt to fine-tune some of these things, but I think it looks good. Yeah. Hate to say it, but you know, caught me at the tail end, so I'm pretty much gonna say thanks for coming, and I gotta get some sleep, so I'll do one more. We'll zoom in. Always go long. You know, kind of a thing, but the this will be fun eventually to make into a finished piece. You know, eventually I'll get around to that stuff. All right. Well, thanks for stopping by, man, to listen to that track I sent you on the drive home. The Final Fantasy track, I could tell was a little bit more than I was necessarily in the mood for. Allow me to sort of let it sift in my brain a bit. And also, I need to make sure I actually listen to the right track. All I did was start listening to the album that you sent me. So I have to make sure that the track you sent me is the one I was listening to. Alrighty. Bombing mission one. Well, that may have been, I mean, it sounded familiar. It also sounded like it was like very, very much redone, which is good, but it possibly was something more than I was expecting. You know, because I'm such a fan of the source material, where I was like, what? You know. Anyway. All right, I'm going to save this out and give it a good night. Thank you for peeping in to see the final verdict. I'm glad it looks good so far. I need to sleep on it to make sure there's nothing else that is super bugging me. We'll come back around to him. All right, man. Thanks, and thanks again for the mic. All right. Good night.